One day after returning to the bench for the new term, the U.S. Supreme Court heard the case of a Colorado licensed counselor who's challenging her state's counseling censorship law. Legacy Media is describing the case as a case against conversion therapy. All right? But the Colorado law does more than that. It forbids a licensed counselor from even having voluntary conversations with minors about sexual orientation or gender identity, unless it directs young people towards so-called gender transition. It's a one-way street. So, how'd it go today? Well, joining me to share what happened inside the courtroom is Jonathan Scruggs. He's a senior counsel and vice president of litigation strategy at Alliance Defending Freedom, which is representing the Colorado licensed counselor. Jonathan, welcome back to Washington Watch.
No, thanks for having me.
Good to have you in studio. So, quick summary of the case, what it was about.
Yeah, like you said, it's really about a case involving a licensed counselor from Colorado who counsels kids to help them achieve their voluntary goals to grow comfortable with their bodies if they're struggling with issues like gender dysphoria or discomfort.
So it's a free speech issue. It's a right of access issue for parents and children that want this type of counseling that are being denied it in the state of California.
Absolutely. This is
Colorado.
This is totally conversation. So it's all that we're talking about, and kids and families who are struggling with this issue, right? Like, where do they go? What help do they need? They want to engage in just conversation.
So what's this? The media's a conversion therapy.
Yeah, I mean, I think they use that term, and I mean, I'm sure people doing.
It's a loaded term.
It's a loaded term, and it doesn't really accurately describe what our client does.
So this is counseling, like you would go to anybody and say,
Yes.
okay, so what's happening in your life?
Yeah, exactly.
And sometimes it goes back to trauma that they might have experienced, but it's tracing back to the roots. But right now, in Colorado, in a total, almost 24 states have these type of laws that ban this type of counseling. The only option you have is surgery or drugs, right?
That's right. They're pushing you to the surgery and drugs. So these young kids and that harms them. Why are we banning counselors from helping kids with helpful conversations?
Non-invasive counseling, just having a conversation.
Just conversations, but we're going to push them to have surgeries that alter their lives forever.
So do you think the court, the 9 justices, saw that today?
I think so. And it probably is, I wouldn't say shocking, but like even the more liberal and progressive justices were asking really difficult questions of Colorado, because Colorado's argument is essentially, we get to say whatever happens. We get to regulate what happens in this counseling room, these conversations, whatever we say goes. And I think the liberal and progressive justices were realizing that's not a good thing, right? Because that means the government can just shut down any conversation.
Okay, Jonathan, let me ask you this, because Alliance Defending Freedom, we're very supportive. We work a lot with Alliance Defending Freedom. Great group. We appreciate you guys. You've been to the court a number of times for cases out of Colorado, Masterpiece cake bakers. So what's going on in Colorado? Are the justices seeing that something is happening in Colorado?
I mean, I wish I could say that Colorado got the message, but we have to keep going, and we're currently litigating numerous cases on behalf of businesses. I think we have like 4 or 5 pending cases just in Colorado, and many of these are going to the Supreme Court. You would hope they get the message to respect the First Amendment. I mean, in the past, they've tried to infringe the First Amendment.
Well, they've lost.
And they've lost every time. So even after, and Jack Phillips, who's the cake designer in Colorado, after we won at the Supreme Court, they went after him again after that, right? And we won that too. So we actually have a pretty good record. I think we might be undefeated against the state of Colorado.
I just don't get it.
Well, I mean, it's just an ideology. And that's the key thing here, is that in this issue, when kids and families are struggling, why is the government pushing them toward this ideology to accept this gender ideology?
Okay, so we just got a few minutes left here, Jonathan. As I mentioned in passing a moment ago, they're not the only state. There's a total of 23 states that have laws like this. So first, what do you think the likely outcome is in this case?
I'm pretty hopeful, like I said, just from the conversations that we're having at the court today, that almost every justice seemed pretty skeptical. So I'm hopeful that, we get a strong victory.
So what will this do for parents and children and counselors across the country in these other states that have these totalitarian rules in place?
It'll free up the counselors to give the help families need. And let me stress this: 9% of kids who are struggling with this issue, struggling with issues of gender dysphoria, they naturally grow comfortable with their bodies. So why are we pushing kids away from that, away from getting the help and the care?
We also know that underlying, in most cases, there's some trauma that they've experienced in life. And if you just medicate that or cover it up with some surgery, it's not going to be dealt with.
Well, what should be the answer? The answer should be counseling.
Right.
Right? And that's exactly what Colorado is banning, that's the crazy thing.
You mentioned the ideological bent here. There's a reason for this. They don't want, it's almost like they want people to suffer by going down this path.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, why take away the choice from parents and kids toward the right path? You're pushing them towards something, like I said, toward drugs, towards cross-sex hormones, toward puberty blockers, toward surgeries that could make kids lifelong patients. That's just, it's harmful. It's a sad thing.
But that's the world in which we live, and this is consistent, Jonathan, with what we see in the left and in the cancel culture that we've been experiencing for the last decade, is that their positions are so indefensible that they don't want to have conversations about it. They want to lock people into harmful, really destructive decisions.
I think that's really the problem with gender ideology, right? It denies the truth. When you deny the truth, who gets hurt? Kids and women. And that's what's happening in states like Colorado.
So, Jonathan, the court generally, after they hear these oral arguments, don't they get together usually at the end of the week and they kind of hash through and start to formulate their opinions?
That's right. They meet together, they vote, and then you enter into kind of a negotiation process, like a joint project to write the actual opinion.
So when should our listeners and viewers be praying specifically for the court as they kind of distill down their opinions?
I mean, I would be praying now, because even now, when they have that first vote, it's going to be important, because that kind of starts that negotiation process. And then we could get an opinion as late as June of next year.
All right. Well, we'll be praying. Jonathan, thanks for stopping in. Great to see you. Again, appreciate the work that ADF does.
Thank you so much.